Hi, in this video we're going to create an application that will convert JSON file into SQL Insert statements. I already created this application, so it's going to be more like code review, but if you don't know how to create a console app, I'm going to show you. So first, let's bring this application from GitHub. I'm going to place this link in the description of this video. So I'm going to click on code, grab this URL. And I already created this folder. I called it generate SQL from JSON. You can call it anything you want. I'm going to right click inside that folder, open in terminal. And here I'm already in this folder and I'm going to type git clone. And I'm going to paste that link here, enter. I'm going to just close it. And as you can see, I have this folder here. I'm going to go inside. This is my solution file. I'm going to right click on it, open with, and I'm going to use my Microsoft Visual Studio 2022. My application is open and I don't need this, and I'm gonna just unpin it, and I'm gonna go to Solution Explorer. I'm gonna pin it to the screen. I'm gonna expand it, and all my code inside this program CS file. So I'm gonna double click it, and this is my project. We're gonna go line by line to see what it does and how it works. But if you want to create from scratch, you can go to File, New, Project, and here I chose C#, and on the right side I chose Console. And I use this template for console app, the top one, and you're gonna click next, and you can call it anything you want here. You can keep the solution name the same as your project name, or you can change it. And I'm not going to place them in the same folder, so I'm gonna click next. And as you can see, I'm inside my folder, my projects. You can choose a different location. You just need to click here, next. And I'm gonna use .NET 8. It's long-term support, and this is the latest version. And I do not want to use top-level statements, and I'm gonna leave this unchecked, create. And your project is created. There's one more thing I need to do. I need to add a NuGet package. So I'm going to right click on the name of my project and I'm going to select Manage NuGet Packages. And I'm on this Install tab. As you can see, I don't have anything installed. I'm going to go to Browse. And I need this newtonsoft.json. If you don't have it, you just need to type here in the search bar Newton, and the very first package that has 4.6 billion downloads. You can choose the latest stable version, install, apply. The package has been installed, and now if I go to this installed tab, you can see that I have this package installed. I'm gonna close this tab, and now my application is ready for the code. Now I have this default line, but before we run this application, I'm gonna right click on this project name and I'm gonna go to open folder in File Explorer. I'm gonna go inside this bin folder and inside debug folder and .NET 8.0 folder. As you can see, this folder is empty, and it's because we didn't run our application yet. Let me put this side by side. And as soon as I run this application, the code is gonna compile and I'll have a bunch of files here. So let me run this application. I have this console window with this hello world, and I'm gonna close it. And as you can see now, inside this folder, I have a bunch of files. I wanted you to show this because this is where we're gonna put our JSON file. Now let me close this project, and I'm gonna be opening the project we loaded from GitHub. So this is the project that I loaded from GitHub. This is my program CS file. Let me run this application. I'm gonna press this green arrow. I have a message inside this console window, and it's saying that it could not find file with this name, my.json.txt. Let me close it. And let me copy the name from here. I'm gonna create that file. So I'm gonna right click on the project name, open folder in File Explorer. I'm gonna go inside the bin folder, debug, .NET 8.0. And here I'm gonna right click, new text file. And I'm going to paste that name that I copied, enter. So now I have this file, but I don't have any data. So if I open it, as you can see, it's an empty file. Let me close it. If I run my application, it's gonna say there is no data in the file. Let's populate that file with the data. So I have this data, and I'm gonna tell you in a second how I generate this data. I'm gonna press Ctrl A, Ctrl C, and I'm gonna open that file again, click inside and press Ctrl V. I'm gonna save, Ctrl S. Let's minimize it. Let me stop this application. I'm gonna just close the console window. So I'm gonna run it again. And now I have two insert statements in this console window. This is just to display what has been generated, but if I go inside that folder again, you can see that I now have this insert statements file. Let me click on it, and I have those two statements here too. So I'm gonna just copy it, and I'm gonna go to my database, and I have one here. It's on my local DB. Databases, I'm gonna expand this. As you can see, I have two tables, and I have this context table. Let's look at the data. I have two records. Now, to use those insert statements and populate data inside this table, I'm gonna right click on this database name, new query, and I'm gonna paste those two statements. I'm gonna press Ctrl V, and I'm gonna run them. As you can see here, I have a message that two rows have been affected. I'm gonna go back to our data, and I'm gonna refresh it. As you can see now, I have 4 records instead of 2 records. Really quick, why I created this project. I need to create a few thousand records inside this context table, and of course I don't want to sit and type it manually. I need a tool to convert JSON file into these insert statements, and then I can run those insert statements and populate my table. Let's talk about where I get the JSON data. Let me stop this project, and I'm gonna open my browser. This is the Web API I'm using, and I'm talking about this Web API and in general how Web API works, what data you can get from them in this video. I will put this link in the description of this video if you want to know more about Web APIs. But this API allows me to generate random data for people. So if I scroll down inside my documentation page, this line shows me how I can generate 5,000 random records. So I'm gonna right click on it, copy, and I'm gonna go to this tab and I'm gonna place it here. And I don't want 5,000 records at this point. I'm gonna just get 2. If I press enter, I'm getting data for 2 people. And if I click here, print, I can see that I'm getting an object with 2 properties, results, and if I scroll down, and info. Inside the results property, I have an array of objects right here. It goes all the way to here. And the first object goes up to this gender right here. So this comma ends my first object, and my second object starts right here. So I don't really need this result property, I just need this array. But before I do it, I actually want to modify my URL and get people with addresses only in the United States. Let me add one query parameter. So here at the end, I'm gonna put ampersand, and I'm gonna type net equals US. If I press enter, I'm gonna get 2 random users with the addresses in the United States. You can find more information about how it works here on this documentation page. But for now, let me grab this array, and I'm gonna copy it, and I'm gonna go to my file, my JSON txt. I'm gonna delete everything here, and I'm gonna press Ctrl V to paste it what I grabbed. And this is how I get my JSON data. Let's go back to Visual Studio and look how my code works. Back to program CS. And here inside my main method, first of all, I declare a few variables. So they're all strings. So as you can see, I have the name of the file where I keep my JSON data. And this is the name of the file where I write my data into. And this is the name of my database, and I put it in variables because if I want to do it in the future, I can easily do it just right here. The rest of my code I put in this try catch block. So this is my try block, and this is my catch block. So if something goes wrong, I'm gonna put this arrow out in the console. I first start with reading the info from the file, and here if I point on this file, as you can see, it's a class that comes from system library. IO stands for input output, and I have this method, and this method opens a text file, reads all the text in the file, and then closes the file. So when this code is executed, this string file content will have all the information of that JSON data. Line 17, I'm converting this string, so I'm putting it right here, into a list of objects. And this is where I'm using my NuGet package. And if I point on this method, it is deserializing the JSON. And what it means, it is converting that string, long string, into an array of objects. In some code, you might see this word dynamic is being substituted by a class you created, and that class will match the structure of the JSON file. But for this project, it doesn't really matter. We're going to dynamically create this variable, get the data, and dispose it. We don't use it after that at all. So line 17 checks if we have data in that variable, and if we don't, here in the else statement, I'm going to put in the console that there is no data in the file. And if we have data, we're going to look through this data and we're going to create our insert statements. After we create our insert statements, we're going to write it into our text file. So line 21, we're using a using statement syntax, and inside this parenthesis, we're creating this object, stream writer. And again, this stream writer is part of our input output class. This is the name of our file, and this line creates a connection to that file. And after this using block is done, this connection will be disposed. This for each block will loop through all the data. And this variable, I call it user, you can call it anything you want. We're using this user object to extract all data we need. And when we're extracting the data, we put it in variables. So for example, for the first name, we are getting the data from this user object, and inside there will be a property name. And that name is going to be actually an object, and inside that object, there will be a property first. To see exactly how it works, let me put a breakpoint here, and I'm going to run this application. If I point on these random users, as you can see, we have two objects here. Let me close it. Let me point at this file content variable, and I'm going to click on this arrow next to view, and I'm going to choose JSON visualizer. Let me minimize this window. And it showed that inside this JSON data, we have two objects. Let's look at the first one. So this is my user, and now I'm going to go inside this nested object, and inside I'm going to have this property first. This is how I'm getting my name here. So I'm going to step over. As you can see, my first name is now Jill. Same is going to be with last name. I'm going to step over, and now my last name is going to be Bates. Let me point to it. In the next line, I get the state, and it's located inside this location object right here. And it gives me the full name of the state. In my address, I want to display only the abbreviation. And this is what we do on line 30. I'm using this string state, and I'm calling our method get state abbreviation. And this method is right here. I'm passing my state, and on line 57, I trim it. And what it means, if I have spaces on left or on the right side of this string, it's going to be trimmed. It shouldn't be happening, but just in case, I'm going through a step, because if I have a space, my switch statement is not going to recognize the name. And now in this case, since the state is Massachusetts, it's going to go to this Massachusetts case, and it's going to return me this MA abbreviation. Now the default part is returning me an empty string. It shouldn't be happening, but just in case I have this. And after I get back this abbreviation, let me step over. As you can see, my state abbreviation now is MA. Line 31 is constructing my address. Let me close this. As you can see, I'm grabbing the street number, the street name, and here I'm inserting a comma with a space. Next, I'm appending a city, my state abbreviation, and the postcode. In the United States, it's going to be zip code. We're going to talk about this line 32 in a second, but after I create an address, the next step would be line 34, where I create my insert statement. And I'm using a string interpolation syntax, so I'm putting this $sign in front of quotation marks, and after I do that, I can use my variables inside these curly braces. After I create my insert statements, I put it on the console, so we can just see it, and after that, I'm actually writing it into my text file. We go down. Line 52 is the end of my application, where it waits until I press any key to close the console. Now let's go back to this line 32. This line can be used if you want to create an address for any country, not just for the US. As you can see, we don't use state abbreviation, we're just using the state. And if you want to use that, you would need to comment out to these lines and uncomment this line. Let me stop the application and let me remove this breakpoint, and I'm gonna run the application again. As you can see now, instead of giving me a state abbreviation, it's gonna give me a state. I hope this video was helpful, and thank you for watching.